Hi guys, and welcome back to another championship prediction video. Last time out, 2 scores correct, Blackburn drawing 1-1 with Blackpool and Forest beating Blues 2-0. And it's actually the second week in a row that I've got the Blues score correct. So I'm obviously happy with that, hoping to continue it as long as I predict positively, because I obviously don't want us to lose. Before we get into the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe. I want to sort of, I'm on 82 at the moment. I want to get to 90 by the end of April and 100 by the end of May. That's sort of my goal. So end of May, 100 subscribers. That's what I'm aiming for. And I'm hoping we can get there. So make sure to smash that subscribe button down below and get us to our goal. Let's get into the predictions. And starting off with a massive match in the playoffs, Luton taking on Forest. Now Luton, they haven't won in 3, lost a massive playoff clash last week, 2-0 against Huddersfield. If they'd have won it, you'd sort of look at it and think, okay, they're guaranteed playoffs now. But with another tough fixture here, them probably needing about 2 wins from now to the end of the season. If they don't win here, they need to win 2 out of their last 4. So it could be quite tough for them, but I've got confidence that they'll be able to stay in the playoffs. And they're taking on a Forest side that are aiming for automatic promotion now. They've played a few less games, so, they're gaining on Bournemouth. And with Bournemouth having such a tough run-in and, struggling to win at the moment consistently, and Forest, they're unbeaten in 10 with 5 wins in a row. The last one, 2-0 against Blues. So Forest are really flying for that second place. And if they get it, fair play to them, because that is a brilliant rise considering, where they started this season under Chris Hughton. For this one, I think Forest are in too good form and they're just gonna nick this one. It might be a comfortable game, it might be tight. I'm not sure, because Forest are so good at the moment and Luton do have a tendency to just throw a bad performance in every once in a while. But I'm going to go Forest to win 2-1. Another big clash at the top of the table, Bournemouth taking on Middlesbrough. And Bournemouth, they've not won in 2 and they drew their last game 0-0 with Sheffield United. Middlesbrough, they've lost 2 home games in a row. They were their last 2 games against Fulham and Hull. So, they were in such good home form, a lot of wins in a row. That's dropped, but they've won their last 2 away games in a row. So maybe it's switched a bit. Maybe they're going to be better away now. But obviously they're away in this one. And I just feel that Bournemouth are really going to struggle for wins with such a hard run-in. And, they're playing teams that also need things rather than a team that's on the beach. I think the pressure is going to get to Bournemouth and I think they're going to draw again. So I'm going to go 1-1. Blues take on Coventry next. Blues, in our last 6, won 2, drew 2, lost 2. The 2 losses against Forest and Middlesbrough. So you can't really argue with that. We got a draw in there against Swansea, who are obviously a good side at the moment. They're in brilliant form, and against Hull. And then 2 wins against Bristol City and against West Brom. So I'm quite happy with, how we're performing towards the end of the season. Getting some good wins in there, some good results. And I'm hoping just to finish as strongly as possible. We're coming up against the Coventry side that have the same form as us over the last 6 games. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. Obviously, their last game was that massive 3-1 away victory over Fulham, which really wasn't expected, but they've now done the double over Fulham. So Coventry are very good against top sides. And Coventry, they are still in a playoff race, but you've got to feel that they need to win 4 out of 5 at least, but probably 5 out of 5 to have any chance of getting in the playoffs. So it now looks like their aim is a top 10 finish, which would be a massive achievement for Coventry anyway, as they've just progressed each season that they've been up in the Championship. So fair play to them. For me, this sort of, even though Coventry are a better side this season, they've had a much better season than us. They're a much better put together team. My head sort of just thinks draw, because the last 5 matches between us in all competitions have ended in draws. So it just sort of defaults to this will be a draw. We're used to it. And we're at home. Lyle Taylor's back. So I'm going to go for that. 1-1. Hull take on Cardiff next. And Hull, in their last match, got a shock 1-0 win against Middlesbrough away. Brilliant result for Hull. But something weird about them that I didn't notice until I looked at the form. They've lost their last 6 home games in a row, and they're unbeaten in their last 6 away games. So, quite strange. That doesn't normally happen with teams, but they've lost 6 in a row at home. And them being the home team here already puts them at a bit of a disadvantage for me. And they're playing against a Cardiff side that have won 4 out of their last 6. They won 2-1 away at Reading as well. So I think just by, going off home and away form in this, I've got to go for Cardiff to win. And I'm going to go Cardiff win 1-0. Peterborough take on Blackburn next. And this obviously has massive, consequences at both ends of the table. Peterborough, they have drawn 4 out of their last 7. Won 1, lost 2. So you think they've only lost 2. That's good. But so many draws in there have disadvantaged them. If they could have had 2 wins, turn 2 of them draws into wins, that's an extra 4 points. That puts them a lot closer to safety. And you've got to think, if they don't win here, it might be game over for them. Blackburn, strangely enough, have only won 1 out of 7 as well. So both these teams aren't really winning at the moment. And Blackburn obviously need a win for the playoffs. Although I think drawing here still, keeps them in the balance. Losing here will still keep them in with a chance of playoffs. But they really could do with picking up a win here, because it's a team that's on the brink of being relegated. So you'd have to think that if Blackburn couldn't win here, they probably couldn't win at many other places. For this one, I'm going to go down the middle. They're both drawing quite a bit recently. Peterborough are going to give it their all. They've been scoring a few goals as well, Peterborough, recently. They just can't keep them out. So I'm going to go exciting draw 2-2. Next up, it's Preston versus Millwall. And Preston, they've won 2 in a row against Blackpool and QPR. Millwall, they won their last one 4-1 against Barnsley. And they're still in with a shot at the playoffs. But you've got to think, out of their remaining 5 fixtures, they're probably needing 3 wins and 2 draws, or 4 wins, something like that, to have a chance. With this, I think Preston get a lot of draws, Millwall get a lot of draws, so I think a lot of people will probably go for a draw here, and that's the way I'm going to go. I think Millwall need the points more, but Preston at home, you sort of know what to expect. Under Ryan Lowe, they get a lot of draws, and that's the way I'm going, so 1-1. Sheffield United take on Reading next, and Sheffield United drew their last game 0-0 with Bournemouth, but over their last 9 games, won 3, drew 3, lost 3. So very hard to call, but I think they should be alright home, because they've got such a good record at home against the Reading side that are obviously near the bottom of the table. But you'd have to think Reading, 1 more win, they'll be safe. And Reading, they were unbeaten in 4, then they lost 2-1 against Cardiff. That win could have secured safety, not mathematically, but, well, after a few weeks, it would be mathematically. But Reading lost that game and are now in need of a win, but probably not going to get it here. I'm going to go Sheffield United win 2-0. Stoke take on Bristol City next. And Stoke, they won 3-1 against West Brom in their last match. and have won 3 out of their last 4. So they look like they're going to finish the season strongly and try and, finish as high as possible, because for the last few seasons of them being in the Championship, they've really underachieved. And the manager sort of wants to show that they're going in the right direction and try and finish as close to 10th place as they possibly can. Now, they're playing against a Bristol City side that haven't won in 4. Both these teams on the beach, but Bristol City, one thing you can normally guarantee with them is goals. Andreas Weiman's had a brilliant season. They've got good attacking players that can really cause an issue. So I think both teams to score is really on here. But I'm going to go Stoke to win 2-1. Swansea up against Barnsley next. And Swansea are unbeaten in 5 with 4 wins. They're in very, very good form, pushing for a top 10 finish. But they've actually got an extra game, 6 games remaining. A lot of these teams only have 5. And I genuinely think it may be a long shot. Probably will be ruled out very soon. But if Swansea can win 5 of their 6 games, they've got a chance at playoffs. I know it's a big ask, but they're in very good form at the moment. So they can achieve that. And it would be some comeback for them to be able to get in the playoffs. I think they're just pushing for top 10 at the moment, but don't rule it out. Barnsley, they haven't won in 3. And you have to think, if they don't win here, they're going to get relegated. They've put up a fight. At one stage, Reading were in such bad form and Barnsley were getting a few wins that I did think that Reading were going to get relegated and Barnsley would survive. But Reading picked it up over the last few weeks and it's really had an effect on Barnsley, who couldn't keep up. So for this, I'm going to go Swansea win 2-0. West Brom take on Blackpool next. And West Brom, they've had a very disappointing season. They've lost 2 out of their last 3. It's just not looking good for them, is it? West Brom, you really expected them to be fighting for automatic promotion at the start of the season. Valérien Ismaël hit a bad run of form and they dropped off a cliff. They're playing against a Blackpool side that haven't won in 4, but drew their last game 1-1 against Blackburn, and I see the same here, 1-1. Next up, Huddersfield take on QPR. And Huddersfield, they've won 2 in a row and they won their last game 2-0 against Luton. It was a massive win, because if they lost that, they'd be looking like the team that could drop out the playoffs. But you've got to think now, 1 or 2 wins in these last 5 games for Huddersfield and they've secured a playoff spot, which is a massive achievement. I predicted them to finish 23rd in the league. I know a lot of people had them, to finish around there, getting relegated, maybe just surviving. They have really overachieved this season, and fair play to them. They've been, put together very well. They've always sort of looked like a great team, because I don't think there's many individuals there. I think it is just a brilliant team effort from them. They had that massive unbeaten run. They've been brilliant this season, so fair play to Huddersfield. They're coming up against a QPR side that looked like they were destined for playoffs. They looked like they could have fought for the top 2 with Bournemouth. But their recent form, they've lost 5 in a row, lost 7 out of 8, and now they're not going to finish in the playoffs. It's a shame, because QPR was so consistent up to that point. They've been brilliant. But yeah, something's gone on there. I'm not too sure what, but their poor form has left them without the possibility of a playoff space. For this, I think Huddersfield are going to add to QPR's demise. So I'm going to go Huddersfield to win 2-0. And finally, Derby take on Fulham. And all I'm saying here is hear me out. Derby, they've only won 1 out of their last 5, and you've got to think a loss here would surely relegate them after such a dramatic season. Fulham, however, they look like they're going to win the league. It's inevitable. However, they lost their last game 3-1 against Coventry, and maybe they're in on the beach mode, because I genuinely think they could pick up no points and get promoted. So it's an interesting one. Now, my theory behind my prediction is that Derby this season have only picked up 3 less points at home than Fulham in the same amount of games. Fulham are second on home form. And Derby have only lost 3 games at home all season. Earlier in the season, this ended as a draw. And the thing about Derby is Wayne Rooney knows they have to give everything this game. They need a win. Fulham don't need anything because they're going to get promoted anyway. And I've got a really sneaky feeling that Derby are going to keep this little spot of hope for survival going. Maybe if it's only for one more week. But I've just got a feeling that Derby are going to win this. Mainly because their home form is very good. They've only lost 3 and they're going to want it more because they need it more. So I'm going to go for a big shocker of a result. Derby to win, low scoring, 1-0. So those are my predictions for this week of Championship football. But make sure to get your predictions down below and any big calls, like my big call of Derby beating Fulham. You know, you might have something that you think's going to happen that not many other people will think. And if it comes in, at least you've wrote it down to someone and it'll be pretty impressive to get something big right. Make sure to like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Championship content and up the Blues.